Hi everyone, it's Joanne from Plymouth Medical here, showing you the MSite GS30 544E protocol for your uses in bone repair. So without further ado, I'm going to quickly go through the setup of your centrifuge. This centrifuge here is an Eppendorf centrifuge. It's manufactured in Germany. It has these buckets that came with them. Seeing as your kit is a 30cc kit, we're going to ask you to place these 30cc inserts inside the bucket so that they can effectively accommodate for the width of your tubes. This is our counterbalance that is water-based and will require some weighing, obviously, once you've gotten your sample. First and foremost, you're going to basically grab a kit. It's a non-sterile kit that we're demonstrating today, but your sterile kits will be notated with the name of the kit on top, the AbsolutePRP platelet concentrating system, 30 mLs. GS30 is the name or the product code. Inside the kit, you're going to find a blood draw accessory kit that includes your tourniquet, a filter needle, 2 alcohol swabs, some gauze, and some sterile tops for your syringe. And you'll also find inside a butterfly that is a 19 gauge butterfly. So if you are familiar, I believe that your current kit requires you to draw the patient's blood in a syringe as well. We're going to basically use this butterfly here to draw from the patient. Furthermore, in the kit, you have anticoagulant sodium citrate, and you have all of the syringes, alcohol swabs, and additional items that you need to process the kit from A to Z, including our PRP tube, which has a red cap on it. So the purpose of the red cap here is for sterility, so you want to keep that closed, and you want to basically keep the tube itself in the sterile pack until you were able to harvest an adequate amount of blood. Prior to us starting, I want to show you quickly the IFU. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you the IFU. So effectively, the IFU is quite straightforward. We sent you this as well for your review, and it's also available 24/7 on our website at plymouthmedical.com. Under the resource section, you'll be looking for the AbsolutePRP 30 ml 544E IFU, or instruction for use. The first step calls for 3 mLs of anticoagulant sodium citrate to be drawn in a 30cc syringe. We basically provide you with a filter needle in order to draw the anticoagulant in the 30cc syringe. So you're going to basically uncap this syringe that's provided in the kit. You're going to attach your filter needle, and you're going to basically grab 3 cc's of anticoagulant in this kit. So I'm going to just draw 3 cc's of anticoagulant. Given that it's a filter needle, obviously you're going to have a little more resistance to drawing liquid in this syringe. And the reason why we have a filter needle in this case is there may be some crystallization and some fragments in the anticoagulant. So we provide you with a filter needle to avoid basically aspirating those crystals in the patient sample. So we've got 3 cc of anticoagulant sodium citrate. And then what we're going to do is we're going to disconnect your filter needle, and we're going to attach the 19 gauge butterfly that's provided in the blood draw accessory kit. This is done very simply by unhooking the cap and luring on the butterfly. At this point, you're going to perform a routine venipuncture with a tourniquet that's provided in the kit with alcohol swabs. You also have a Band-Aid provided, as well as some gauze for the patient. These blue tops here are to basically top your sample or your PRP sterilely if you need to move the sample or the PRP from room to room. So the last thing we want is to have you walking around with an open syringe as such. So you want to basically just cap these Lure blue tops on your sample or on your PRP as you see fit. So you're provided with 5 just for good measure. So given that I don't have a patient with me here, I'm basically going to grab a fully loaded blood sample here. This is bovine blood that we were able to get for your demonstration. So we've got 30 cc's of bovine blood preloaded in this syringe. Now I'm gonna get you to basically locate your tube in the kit. The one with the red cap on it is where the red blood goes. So red cap is basically disconnected and the red blood is then connected. So our kits basically have self-sealing ports on the top here. Given that I just took off the red cap, I don't need to swab this. I can just basically connect my syringe by pushing down and by turning clockwise or turning to the right. So basically right is tight. So I'm gonna basically push down my syringe and then turn it to the right, and then effectively I have a seal on this kit at the moment. So at this point I'm going to depress or basically inject the anticoagulated blood in my PRP tube. I don't know if you can see here though, there's a disc that basically is going up in this process, and it has a little air in it. So when I'm halfway through, I'm just gonna basically pull back on the plunger and effectively purge all the air in the kit back into the syringe. This basically makes sure that the blood is spinning adequately in the process. So once you've basically transferred all the anticoagulated blood, you're going to effectively counterbalance the sample. So we have already completed steps 1, 2, 3. And now in step 4, we're going to counterbalance at opposite ends. And basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna measure the sample weight. So you've been provided with a scale. Let me see here. See if you can see it. You've been provided with this scale, and that will basically measure the weights in gram from sample to to a counterbalance. So I'm just going to basically put this sample on here. I'm at 61.1 grams. This centrifuge here has a tolerance of plus or minus 3 grams. So my water-based counterbalance that I showed you early on basically can weigh anywhere from 64.1 to 58.1. So I can either take my sample off here and weigh my counterbalance and see that it's within tolerance, or a little trick is I can basically keep my sample on and press the tare button, which will effectively zero out the weight so I can see how far off I am. So at the moment, I'm about 2.6 grams off of the sample weight. So I'm going to add a couple more cc's of water here to be sure that I'm within plus or minus 3 grams. I could have spun it, but again, counterbalance likes to get as close as possible to the weight. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna load my bucket. So these buckets basically sit directly into the rotor, and they should be able to fully swing at a 90-degree angle. The reason why we want them to swing at a 90-degree angle is because once we start the centrifuge, we're basically going to effectively stratify all of the cellular components of the blood based on their density. So one of the processes of PRP in this case is to effectively remove as many red blood cells as possible, given that red blood cells are denser, much bigger cells than platelets that are anywhere from 1 to 4 microns in diameter. Basically, what we're trying to do is effectively stratify those cells and bring them down and form a buffy coat. So the process behind our single spin kit is to create a buffy coat at the center of the tube. So I don't know if you can see this, but I actually have a sample that we prepared to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So after a very quick 5-minute spin, you're going to see all of the plasma, and you're gonna basically push down all of the cells down to the center and create a buffy coat in the middle of the kit. This will enable you to get rid of the majority of the red cells at the bottom and grab all of the leukocytes, or the granulocytes, the monocytes, and the lymphocytes that will basically survive the centrifugation process. So the IFU basically calls for setting the centrifuge at 5 minutes at 4,400 RPMs. So you're gonna basically set the time on the left to 5 minutes, and you're gonna basically set the RPMs on the right to 4,400 RPMs. And by pressing the time button on the left, the centrifuge will start spinning. So in these 5 minutes, the buckets will start spinning, and will basically move at a horizontal angle. They'll be basically spinning fully horizontally, which means that in our centrifuge, you will have a nice clean separation of cells as such. So without spending 5 minutes of your time basically looking at a centrifuge spin, I'm going to basically pause this recording and come back when it's ready to go. So we're back. The 5 minutes has elapsed, and basically what happens with the centrifuge when the cycle or the 5-minute spin is completed, this little magnet basically disengages, and the lid of the centrifuge opens automatically, which is a signal to you that the process is completed. And what you're going to do then is you're going to carefully remove the sample from the centrifuge. I don't know if you can see here, but we've actually used bovine blood in this instance, and it seems like there's been quite a bit of hemolysis happen in the harvesting of this cow's blood. But I don't know if you can see the two phases really that are created in this separation process. The plasma is on the top. Basically all of the platelets, all of the leukocytes have basically now converged, and the buffy coat in the center of the kit. So the premise behind this kit basically is to effectively remove sort of acellular PPP, or platelet poor plasma, at the top, and get down to the leukocyte-rich buffy coat at the bottom here. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically take another 30 cc syringe that's provided in your kit. We're going to basically remove the plastic cap on this, and we're going to effectively connect the syringe to our PRP tube. So I'm going to swab the PRP tube, and I'm going to connect my empty syringe, and effectively per the IFU, I'm going to basically remove all of the platelet poor plasma from the top until the bottom of this disc hits the RBC interface. I don't know if you can see that, but I'm going to basically aspirate the platelet poor plasma until the disc goes down to the bottom. So you see the bottom of the disc has now touched the RBC interface. I'm going to disconnect this plasma now. Again, this plasma is highly hemolyzed because we've used bone marrow here, but I have a little sample I showed you earlier that basically this is what it would look like. It would look like yellow plasma on the top and red cells at the bottom. You would effectively want to aspirate out all of the platelet or plasma until the bottom of this disc gets down to the red blood cell interface. That's the concept of what we're doing here. Beyond that, I'm going to basically re-swab this tube. It's important that this tube stays vertical. I'm going to take my 12 cc syringe, that is our treatment syringe, disconnect the top here, and basically attach my treatment syringe. And I'm going to basically, per the IFU, grab 3 to 4 cc's of injectate. So I'm going to just turn this so you can see the graduations on this syringe. So you're going to basically grab the Buffy coat effectively. So, and then you're going to see this red blood cell basically fill the line. So you're just effectively making sure you've got all of that Buffy coat. And we're going to disconnect when we got 4 cc's of injectate. Even 3 cc's is doable, because I don't know if you can see here in the tube, but I've actually got my clean Buffy coat. So we have our final PRP product. We can disconnect this syringe and basically grab a sterile top, or connect your treatment needle as you see fit for your uses intraoperatively or in an office-based procedure, and you're ready to go. So still at this point, we've got a clear separation here of the Buffy coat in the syringe, and you're ready to go. So that's our process for the 30 ml PRP single spin that is done in just about 5 minutes in total. I'm going to recap the IFU to you by putting this up on the screen. We've taken 3 mLs of sodium citrate anticoagulant in step 1, performed a routine venipuncture in step 2 and grabbed 27 cc's of whole blood for a total of 30 cc's. We've basically loaded 30 mLs of anticoagulated blood in our 30 ml concentrating device. We've spun and counterbalanced with our water-based counterbalance and spun the sample for 5 minutes at 4,400 RPMs in our centrifuge and we'll press the time button to start the centrifuge. We then grabbed our platelet pore plasma from the top after having swabbed the self-sealing port, and basically decreased or basically aspirated the platelet pore plasma until the piston touches the red blood cell interface. We've connected our 12 cc syringe and grabbed 3 to 4 cc's of PRP, and effectively grabbing the whole leukocyte-rich Buffy coat to create a PRP that is rich in platelets and rich in leukocytes. If you have any questions, please feel free to call us at 888-392-5076. Otherwise, all of our IFUs are located on our website at PlymouthMedical.com, which I will plug up for you right here. So PlymouthMedical.com is our portal for all of our resources. You have all of our processing videos, our device videos, as well as all of our instructions for use and our independent third-party white paper data, including other announcements here as well. So thanks for your time, and I hope your cases go well.